In this video, it's the long-awaited hub nut test of the Dacia Jogger. This is the most affordable 7-seater on the market by a considerable margin, and it's also something of a dying breed. It is a conventional estate car, but what is it like to drive? What is it like to sleep in? And is it good value for money? So the Jogger starts at just £17,000, although this is the top spec Extreme model with the 1 litre turbo engine manual gearbox. You can additionally get a hybrid with a 1.6 litre engine and full proper hybrid drive with EV only mode, but offers beyond 60 mpg. During testing with this, we found this is doing about 50 on the motorway driving we've done quite a lot of. And even though it's just a 1 litre engine, it pulls a lot better than you might think. So here we go. Oh my gosh, you can see the actual engine. Here's the bonnet stay. And here is Renault's 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. This actual engine you see before you, 999cc, but 109 brake horsepower, and importantly, of 200 newton meters of torque from about 2,700 revs. So with the turbocharger down the back here, it's quite a punchy little engine, way more grunt than you might expect, because, you know, a 7-seater is going to be quite hefty. But yeah, I love the fact that there is actually an engine here. You got the oil level check, nice and easy there, Renault branding, because that's what makes Dacia so clever. It's recycling slightly older Renault technology and presenting it in an extra value package. And I think this is a really good package. If you look at the styling of the car, put that away, the styling is absolutely gorgeous. I think it doesn't look like a value option. Got this nice mildly aggressive front end. The underpinnings are basically Dacia Sandero, but Dacia Sandero stepway, so we get a bit of plastic moulding. But make no mistake, this is not an SUV. You'll note we've got a much longer wheelbase on the Jogger, and the rear doors are absolutely enormous. And they open out quite nicely as well. So it's a very functional, practical car. If we come round the back, nice square back end. The roof line goes up a bit. And here in the rear, it's a decent amount of space. It's a 7-seater. We've got 2 seats stowed at the moment to show off the available boot space. You can remove the seats as well if you feel the need, but if we bring the seats down, and again, there's still some boot space. Obviously it's compromised quite a lot. A roof box would probably be a good idea. And speaking of that, these roof rails, standard on this specification, I believe you can unlock them and swivel them around, so you've got roof bars that go right across the car, so then you can bolt your roof box on, and then to stop the wind noise you can have them come back to this position. In fact, oh, apparently you need to undo bolts to do that. There isn't a quick release, but nonetheless you don't have to buy a roof rack. It has the roof rack built in. I think that's quite clever. Got a pop open rear window, alloy wheels on this spec as well, some side graphics to hint at lifestyle. The accents in this lovely bronze colour, I apologise for the little dog, it's doing little dog things. And I think that's nice. The badges on the back you may have noticed as well. Got Dacia in the lamps, also in the contrast. But I think the metallic green, that you can get these in, sets off those tones amazingly. But let's go for a drive. So here we are aboard the Dacia Jogger. We'll go through the rear seats in a moment. We're just going to have a bit of a move to a fresh area. Push button start, keyless entry. So sitting inside, again, we've got the colour accent on the dashboard as well, which is quite nice. Quite straightforward switchgear, heater controls with actual controls. It's not all buried in menus. There is an in-car entertainment, but it doesn't go too crazy, and generally there's a lot of tech missing out here. The Dacia Jogger actually only has 1 Euro NCAP star. We will get to that elephant in the room. It's not as bad as you think it is, but let's go for a drive first of all. So 6-speed gearbox, electronic handbrake, which makes a horrible noise. It screams at you in the background. And we'll probably get the parking sensors going off along here because it's a bit tight. No, we're apparently all right. And yeah, we're driving directly into the suns, which is less than ideal. But as you can feel, it's just nice, smooth. Progress is effortless. And this, like I say, this little engine has so much more punch than you might expect. And it's also quite relaxed. Here's a bit of motorway footage. It's kind of superb, really. Maybe a bit more wind and road noise than you might get in a premium product, but yeah, you can't exactly describe it as awful, can you? Got the cruise control set. It's doing about 50 mpg, 70 miles an hour. Can't complain. The driving position isn't perfect, but really big door mirrors make life on the motorway, yeah, hassle-free. Perhaps only slight downside is the view out the rear window is not good. Really chunky pillars right at the back. The typical sort of modern slice of a rear window. Terrible rear wiper that cleans just a little middle portion of it. Not the best, but that's hardly a Dacia problem. That's a modern car style problem. So as you see, it's a consummate cruiser, really. And I've done a lot of motorway miles. I've done about 600 miles just driving down to Fareham and back for Kitch's up and down video 24-hour live stream, which was quite the experience. And yeah, this was an effortless way to cover the miles. The only slight issue I had, I just found this center console, this is so often a feature on modern cars, just juts out a bit too much, and it's just makes my left knee a little bit uncomfortable. Generally the seats are quite firm as well, but I had no backache after many hours at the wheel. So well, initially not feeling that comfortable when you jump in quite hard, and the head restraint doing the typical modern thing of pushing my head forward a bit more than I like. The fact is, I got out of this car after like 5 hours at the wheel and felt absolutely fine. So can't be that bad at all. I will say the brakes are particularly fierce. I do find them a little hard to get used to. It really does stop very, very well. But as you can hear, you just got that nice little 3-cylinder from the little engine there. I say little, but it just doesn't feel little. Let's get... Typical, just nudge the rear wheel. It is a very long wheelbase, and that does take some getting used to, because in this bit it feels like a small car. The Sandero is not a particularly enormous vehicle, but it is a very long wheelbase. And on the first day, in which we covered about 80 miles driving about, yeah, it was quite hard to put in parking spaces. It doesn't behave quite how you expect. So I'm going to ignore the gentle nag that's telling me to change up a gear, because we're approaching national speed limit. Doing 40 miles an hour. Foot goes down now. Little bit of lag. Very heavy flywheel. Note it takes an age for the revs to come back down again. And that's us at 60. And now we're cruising along. We're doing less than 2,000 revs. And it's absolutely fine. There is quite a bit of wind and road noise, but it's not too bad once you get the stereo pumping. Specification wise, the Extreme has heated seats, obviously the full digital climate control, cruise control, which works very nicely. So it's got everything you kind of need in a car. And let's just test those brakes. Yeah, that is good stopping power, but I do find it a little hard to moderate. I've just killed my camera lady. Yeah, a little tricky to modulate. But overall, yeah, I've been really enjoying the driving experience. I suppose we should probably have a look at the Practicality. All right, climbing into the back, and the rear seat feels quite high up. Which is quite nice, but I've still got plenty of headroom Perhaps if you're in the middle seat you won't, because we've got this channel running down the middle. I'm not entirely sure what that is about, but we've got a little courtesy light here, and we've got picnic tables as well. No cup holders there though, that's a bit of an oversight. Where are you meant to put your fizzy drinks? In fact, there is nowhere. There is a lashing point, no sorry, 12 volt power outlet down there. That's what that is. But nowhere to put your drinks. That seems a massive oversight. We need to find out how to get into the rearmost seat, so we'll give that some thought next and see what the accommodation's like there. Practicality points may be getting lost here, because to access the rear seats, you just tumble the seat as normal. So you have to push the head restraint down, there's a tab there, pulls the seat to there, and then you can rock the whole thing over. And notice on a right hand drive, the curbside position leaves you with 2/3 of the rear seat to fold, but I shall get in. I can't tip it because the front seat rather, is in that position, so already we're having issues. In we go. Just drop that on my toes, pull this back where it neatly catches the seat belt. That's a great bit of design. And judging by the state of the seat belt, I'm not the first person to do that. And here I am in the rear seat. I'm going to have to adjust up the head restraint. And actually what I find surprising is that there is enough space for me back here. Look, there's decent leg room. And well, the under leg support is a little lacking because the floor's a bit higher compared to the seat base. It is actually quite comfortable. That's the via a little magnet is the third point belt for the front seat. Obviously we've got 3-point seats here in the rear tucked away. 12 volt power outlet, so you can chuck the kids in the back, they can still charge up. They've even got a little courtesy light and pop out windows, so all mod cons back here. Feels perhaps a little claustrophobic, but actually I think I'm quite impressed with how much space there is back here. And joy of joys, the rearmost occupants actually get a cup holder, and I'm just wondering if there's anything useful there. Any storage? No. That's just grab handles, I think. Yeah, I think that's more spacious. You could actually have adults back here and it would actually work. Back out then, so tip that forward. I think we'll just give up with trying to rock that. No, we can't. I need to get out. But yeah, come and look at this. The seat belt wants to rest here, which is right where the seat latch is. So you're going to get an issue. So if you're looking at a used jogger, I would have a good look at the rear seat belts, make sure they haven't got trapped. There is nowhere to store the seat belt to keep it out of the way, so be very careful. And now I shall get out. But speaking of the rearmost seats, the reason this car does not have a 2-star rating but a 1-star is because there is nothing on those rearmost seats to tell you whether the people are wearing seat belts or not. And that was enough to take it down from 2 stars, because it shares the same rating as a Sandero stepway. That took it down to 1 star. But it's important to note that in terms of adult protection in this car, 4 stars, child protection, 3 stars. So it's not a terrible car.
What about the pedestrians?
Well, pedestrians, I think it's quite low as well. It doesn't have pop-up bonnet or anything like that. It is a simple car. It doesn't have lane departure. Brilliant, lane departure's rubbish. In fact, I haven't had to turn off any tech on this car in order to just get in and drive it. Almost every modern car I get into, lane departure is the first thing I turn off, and often you have to turn it off every time you start a journey. So on that count, I prefer the low-tech approach. So the 1-star rating doesn't really reflect it. It's not a dangerous car to have a crash in. It's just it hasn't got quite a lot of the electronic tech that Euro NCAP now demands. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
So I have to ask, this has been somewhat of a car hero of yours. Does it remain that way?
I don't know. There's definitely things I like about it. There's definitely some things I don't like. But certainly the way it covers mileage I like. The driving position I don't love. And ironically, it's because it's not an SUV. The driving position is very, very low because it's normal hatchback style driving position. I do like to sit a bit higher up.
But disowned you.
Yeah, if you sit higher, suddenly this feels like you're going to headbutt it in the event of a crash. So that's not quite so good. forgive us, we haven't done the rear wiper test. There you go. And again, this is not a problem unique to this car, but that wiper leaves a lot of screen unwashed because it's a narrow rectangle. It almost needs 2 rear wipers. No, let's not think of 2 rear wipers.
They're in trouble, lies.
That got me in trouble last time. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great car. I don't think it feels cheap and nasty. I like the amount of tech, which is not too much. It's got smartphone integration. It's got Android Auto. It works really, really well. There's voice control on the steering wheel even. But it's not invasive tech. I will say the screen sometimes feels a bit bright, especially at night. There is a night mode, but it just basically turns it all off. Yeah, if you turn the engine off, but want the radio on, you only get like a couple of minutes and then it shuts off and you can't override it. It says saving battery, but this is a car with stop-start technology, so it should have a pretty beefy battery. That is really irritating. So you have to keep restarting the engine to listen to entertainment if you're parked up somewhere, chilling out, waiting for someone, maybe having a hot food sort of eat. That sort of thing is very, very irritating. But I mean, it's the cup holders that surprised me. Does it kind of, I suppose you could use that as a cup holder, maybe for 1 cup. Oh,
cup holders.
There we are. We found them. We have got a couple down there. Sorry, I'll have to take that back. Oh yes, we must acknowledge the sleep situation. I need the spec sheet for that, which we've got mud all over. Yes, the sleep kit situation. This was meant to have the sleep pack, £1,325, which consists of a boot jump in place of the rearmost seats, and that folds out into a bed, and you also get blinds to put in the windows. But unfortunately, they'd taken the sleep pack out and not updated it, which meant I had a slight issue when I was sleeping in the car, because I was planning to sleep in it because it got a sleep pack. I ended up sleeping on the back seat. That is not recommended. It's very uncomfortable. Also, in terms of road tax, this isn't the lowest. It's £210 a year. Imagine the hybrid does a bit better there, but then offset with that, it'll be more expensive to buy. But yeah, that's the full spec list for the Extreme TCe 110 in urban grey.
Do the TikTok thing. Pause to read.
Pause to read, yeah. So, you know, we've got the multimedia, sat-nav, DAB, smartphone integration, blah, blah, blah. I think the Extreme, in particular, the top spec model, has a nice specification to it. I will say just one thing is these mats down here. It's got these very, very aggressive floor mats, and this one seems to keep coming unhitched from the floor, which means it keeps on attacking the pedals. There we go. So, no, it's just not staying in place. So it's a proper chunky mat, but it is moving around a bit. We've got a couple of blanking plugs over here. We've got the headlamp leveling, which a Dacia thing, it seems to be as close to your right ankle as possible. And I've just noticed around here we have the typical Renault multimedia stalk. The slightly annoying thing is, but from the wheel, this spoke gets in the way while you're driving down the motorway, so you can't see what any of the controls are. I suppose a bit of muscle memory will have you tuned into that, but it just seems a bit strange. So you've got the phone call buttons are there when they could be here. That might make more sense. Reasonably be asking yourself, well, where's the cost cutting? Because it doesn't necessarily feel like a cheap car, but there are little hints. Like the plastics are not very nice, and there's no attempt at all to move the door plastics into the dash plastics. They just have made no effort in the slightest. Stop start has just kicked in. But yeah, it doesn't really feel that cheap. And I think that's surprising. I mean, obviously cheap cars these days are a long way from cheap cars of the past. Even the cheapest Dacia is now about £13,000, I think. I've just mentioned this button down here. We've got USB and there's a 12-volt power outlet. This is apparently the Extreme Grip button, and I presume it's some advanced form of traction control that perhaps brakes a spinning wheel. We've not really had a chance to try that. We may yet have a go before the hire is up. Car goes back on Friday. So yeah, there's a whoop of the handbrake. I think I'd like to try the hybrid because I have such an expectation of a modern car, and I don't really want to be changing gear. This gear lever in particular is not very nice. It's quite horrible to hold in the hand. If you would like to look at the gear lever, it's really uncomfortable and lots of sharp edges on it. I don't like that very much at all, and it's a bit of a clunky change as well. It's not the best. I've got a bit more used to it now. I've done a few hundred miles in it, but it's not a very satisfying gear change. So maybe the hybrid is better, because if you want 2-pedal driving, the hybrid is the only way you can get it. If you have the 1 litre, you only get a manual gearbox. But the ratios are very well spread out. Some 6-speed gearboxes, you think, what's the point? You're skipping gears all over the place. But I find actually I do use all the gears. It just helps keep the revs nice and low, which obviously benefits the economy. Should do a windscreen wiper test. That would be a good idea. And very satisfying is what I'm going to say. Good wiping performance, good overlap, no triangle of doom, which is a lot better than earlier Dacias and Renaults. So yeah, very satisfying. It has got auto wipers. The auto wipers aren't very good. You can adjust the sensitivity, and I found that typically you have to do that a lot. But the ride is a little firm. It's not too bad. It's not quite Subaru Forester firm, but it's definitely firmer than a Citroen Berlingo. And yes, we are actually using our 20-plus-year-old cars as a point of reference, because I guess we're asking ourselves, should we go the alternative way? Instead of battling constant issues to fix my Citroen Berlingo, would it be better to just get the money together and buy a car on finance? I guess that's the question we're asking ourselves. The thing I find annoying is this has keyless entry, which means I have the fob in my pocket here and you never touch it. But if I'm running the engine and for some reason get out of the car and move even a little bit away, it starts getting quite grumpy and starts sounding a siren to alert me to the fact. But it's like, I know I've got the key, but I don't know what happens if you go too far away. Does it get even more upset? I don't know. No, I think it just has that one range setting. But yeah, and the other thing is, because it's auto locking, every time you walk near the car it unlocks and then locks itself again. I don't know if that's a major source of annoyance for people or not. So there we go. Is the Dacia Jogger going to tempt us back into the world of car finance? Probably not. We do what we do here on Hubnut. We like our 20-year-old cars. But I think as family transport for someone looking for a new car, I think the Dacia Jogger makes so much sense. Other cars suddenly start looking so overpriced. Here is something for Fiesta money that will transport 7 people, and it's comfortable, it's economical, and Dacia have a pretty decent reputation for customer service as well. So there is a lot to like here. I think this is a very nice car and a very practical one at a really good entry-level price. Even with all the spec, even with the sleep pack, this is £22,000, which unfortunately these days is not all that much for a car. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting piece of kit. Maybe in a few years when they're second-hand we might be tempted by one, but for now it's a stretch too far for us, but might be the perfect car for you. So thank you for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store if you want to buy lovely merchandise, and we'll see you in a future video. Farewell.